Hello there. So I know it's been a really long time since I've just had a conversation with you. I've really stuck my head in the sand since we've come back to New York, and facing that I was coming back to enter hospice care was really difficult. The scans that I had in February in Seattle, the prediction based on those scans compared with other scans, so rate of growth of cancer in my abdomen was predicted to have me feeling symptoms by midsummer if I did no medical intervention. By the end of summer, I was probably facing end of life. And it felt so surreal to me because I felt so good. I was mostly just dealing with the emotional effects, right? The projection was this was going to be my last summer. And the first medication I took in May would make every crease in my fingers feel like slivers. It physically thins the skin on your hands. There were so many things that I wanted to do that I didn't want medication to get in the way. And all I wanted to do was kayak and bicycle and hold my camera. So I stopped taking those pills because by the second round, which it was 1 week on, 1 week off, second round was another week on, another week off. The skin on my hands was becoming so sensitive that it was really painful even to drive. So medication 2 didn't come until July due to some issues with location of medical care, getting insurance on board. So by July, I finally got another medication. And that's the one that made me so violently ill. I took it for 1 round. I did fairly well on it. I was like, there's nothing here I can't tolerate. They started me at half a dose. I asked to be moved up to a full dose, and they said, no, let's wait. And good thing they did, because by my second round, I was so violently ill after being treated for nausea in the emergency department at midnight. Thankfully, I was sleeping in my RV in the parking lot so that I could go to my appointment in the morning. And then I ended up back in because I woke up choking on my own vomit in the parking lot again. So not taking that anymore, right? Okay, I quit medication. Now prognosis doesn't look so good, right? Because I've got nothing stopping the advance of this cancer in my abdomen. Before I left Alaska for better care, I had no bowel movements for 5 days, and things started to back up on me in a way that I was warned about. And so there's cancer. It's around my bowel loops, and that's where they fear that as it grows, it's going to constrict my intestines and things are not going to move. And when I spoke to the hospice nurse here in New York, she said the longest she sees somebody last when that happens is a week, and that it was brutal. The contents of my bowels were going to start. I would be able to taste them. I didn't get that far, but I was so sick one morning that we were so scared that I signed my DNR and filed it, and I transferred over all my finances to my husband. I had witnesses signing it before we went camping. I was like, if I'm going to die, I'm going to do it doing something I love, not sitting at home waiting in fear, right? Although that is something that took over. And so because end of life, or what's predicted for me, is so horrific, hospice nurse Julie says it's the worst possible symptoms to die from, I made almost every decision, and Tim too, rooted in fear. We were so afraid of the fact that many people had said, the hospice nurse that I spoke with, my medical care team, hospice nurse Julie, many comments on YouTube. If I don't get to better care, it could be 3 days before they could ever manage my pain. We learned when I was in the ER, I was allergic to the anti-nausea that they gave me, and my body was convulsing. I was literally doing this in the bed for over an hour. How are they going to control this pain? How are they going to control the nausea if I can't trust that I'm not going to be allergic to other anti-nausea? So we've been chasing this idea that I somehow could escape this fate. I'm okay with the dying part. I am not okay with the pain that comes with this particular type of death. I come back to New York. I went to see my New York oncologist, who I think some of you know now I call Dr. Streisand. She has striking similarities to another famous Streisand. I haven't seen her in 18 months, and I say I want a PET scan because I want to know how far has this progressed? How much time do I have left? Can I make plans? Because every plan made feels futile. So Dr. Streisand, who I also call Maria, hooks me up with a PET scan. Tim and I go, and when we go to her office for the results, she says, "What are you doing? Are you doing some kind of holistic treatment that I don't have on record? Is it the fresh air? Is it because you've come to this point of acceptance that you don't have this kind of dis-ease in your body?" And Tim and I are like, "What is going on?" And she said, "Your PET scan, we have to take with a grain of salt. Because invasive lobular carcinoma grows in single cell chains around existing structures. So it doesn't show up well on a scan like this. It doesn't produce a lot of sugars and doesn't do a lot of radioactive uptake. So when we did this PET scan with contrast, even in the past, it has not shown the full picture of what's going on. So that said, she said, we have to take it with a grain of salt, but it looks a lot better than what I was expecting. The cancer is there. It's still in my abdominal lining, the peritoneum. It's the sac that holds all of our organs together. And we're befuddled because my PET scan says that my cancer is stable, meaning it's not growing. But my tumor markers are on the rise, and pretty sharply. When Dr. Streisand told us about the PET scan, she said, we're going to do a CAT scan just to back it up, a high-res CAT scan with contrast. I don't know how long you have. It may not be a long time. We'll talk about the challenges that you're going to face. But go back to Alaska. Before she kicks us out of her office, she says to me, "I think the medications that you took this summer that we all thought wouldn't have done anything because you had such a small amount of them. We know how hard these drugs are on your body because your body does not metabolize medication. And so your side effects are 10 times worse than everybody else's. And you were on half a dose because we know this about you. I'm half inclined, if you were willing, to put you back on the first medication, capecitabine, and give you 1 pill a day and just see what happens." And I was like, I would do that. She said, "You don't have to be at the point where you're entering hospice if you don't want to. Things could progress within 6 months. We can always revisit that the minute you want to stop these meds, and we will put you right back into the program. You just can't be in that program if you're taking any kind of treatment, even if we're only doing it for palliative reasons." If I were willing to stay in New York, she has a wide variety of treatments that she would be willing to offer me. They all require me coming in for infusions once a week, and I would never be able to go back to Alaska for that. And I'm not willing to do that. So this is the next best step. If we can slow that process down and I have time to dive something else, that would be ideal. So I went up to her and I said, the first time I took this medication, we did not know how it was going to feel. Nobody could tell me. But now I know from experience. That first week that I took the medication, it felt like slivers in my hands, but when I stopped the medication 3 days later, that slivery feeling went away. I would like to do the full 7 days. I want to pack a big punch to this cancer. And then we top me off to what I can tolerate long term. And she was on board with this. And so I started the meds. And I did it on my terms. And I had that slivery feeling going on by the third day. And she said, okay, so stop today. Or if you feel like you can stretch it, go one more day. Had to best her again. So I went 2 more days because now it's a challenge. And my hands were sore, but I'm also not caring this winter about kayaking and biking. So I can tolerate this knowing it's not going to ruin my summer, right? And at this point, I'm at the end, so what the hell? About 2 weeks after my appointment, I started to look like I was about 3 months pregnant. And my pants, they would unbuckle on me because my abdomen was pushing on the clasp. I texted her and I said, okay, this is happening. Will a diuretic help? And will a compression garment help? She called me at 9 o'clock at night and she said, I'm off tomorrow, but come into the office. I want to see you. Okay, so we know the more cancer there is, the more white blood cells that are sent, the more fluid they bring with it. And so your abdomen starts to distend. And so that is called ascites. It can also cause bowel obstructions, adding pressure to the intestines. And so this can also be deadly. So I got on the table and she put her hand like this, further down my abdomen, you can't see, but she put her hand like this and she would tap on one side and she could feel fluid going through my abdomen through her hand. I have my CT scan. Now, this scan, it was really difficult for me. It's an easy test. You go into this donut on a table, it slides you through, it slides you back. You hold your breath a couple times while it takes some pictures.
Breathe in, hold your breath.
No big deal. At some point, it shoots radioactive tracers into your bloodstream so it can take a better picture of where uptake is happening. The hard part for me is my veins are such crap from chemotherapy. And it took the first guy 3 tries to try to get the needle in. He couldn't do it.
He likes them without the wings. I like them with the wings.
It took 2 more people, another try.
Again, your vein blew.
Oh my God.
I know, we have blood return and everything, but I'm so sorry you have to go through this.
And they almost sent me home after the second person was trying because they were like, we can't get the IV in.
We may have to skip the punch.
And I said, you have to. You have to.
There's like one other person that's better than me in this building. I can see if she's available.
Okay. Hello.
She's better than me. We've established it. Thank you.
Sorry if I just pinched them.
No, thank you so
Yeah,
much.
the rest of the day. Okay?
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
All right.
You won't want to come back and see us again.
I'm an overachiever. The CAT scan comes back and it confirms what the PET scan said. I have nodules in different places, but the ascites is even less than we thought. Now that made me feel crazy. Like, what is going on? And so I called Maria and I said, the ascites is something that you felt. And now this test is saying I have less of it than we thought. I'm like, have I been just making every decision based on bullshit information? Like, what is going on? And we hang up. I'm supposed to be happy. And instead, I feel mad. Like, insanely mad. Like, it's being presented as this amazing thing, and it is. My cancer is stable. It has not grown, probably, since I took those meds in the summer. That is astounding. But we couldn't figure out why we couldn't flip that switch from, oh my gosh, I'm dying and this is horrible and we can't make plans and life is over and I'm just sitting here waiting to enter a new plane, right? And now we're supposed to be like, oh, and now we do this, and we're not at that stage. I'm still supposed to boil my vegetables beyond recognition. I'm not supposed to eat meat because the fiber of that can constrict me. I still have a lot going on. And so as we, for days, were teasing this out and kind of trying to crawl out of that grief, I'm still stage 4 cancer. I still have to be careful. Our prior knowledge has changed so many decisions, but then when we look back at them, what also made us mad was we couldn't have made a different decision. We still had to leave Alaska. I couldn't have gotten the care or the creativity or the person who knows my history best, who knows how to help me through navigate my own decisions, to have this medical equipment available where I can have a pet and a cat. And then I had an MRI because my spine started hurting. My spine lit up. The CAT scan that I had in Seattle in February, and it was unclear whether it was cancer or degeneration. It was told to me that it very possibly was cancer. And so we did an MRI here. And the MRI shows that it's not cancer. It is disc disease. My question is, and was, and always has been, if it's degeneration, why when I was on medication in May through till last month, I had no back pain and I was kayaking, throwing axes, bicycling, hiking. How does that get explained? And what we surmised, what Maria surmised, Dr. Streisand, was that the fluid in my abdomen is pressing on my spine, and that's what's causing my spinal pain. And then to find out I don't even have a lot of the fluid to push on my spine, as was surmised, right? So what is going on? I texted Dr. Streisand right after that phone call, and I said, hold on a second. 2 weeks ago when I saw you, when you told me that compression garment wouldn't likely do anything, it arrived on my doorstep before I came home from that appointment. And I thought, what could it hurt? And for 2 weeks, I wore it religiously because it helped my back. And it made my organs feel less like they were swimming around. I explain all this in the text, and I'm like, is it possible that it made a difference? And the text I get back is, I'll call you later, don't take it off. The ascites was worse. She knows it, I know it. The reason it didn't show up as strongly on the scan is because this compression garment is forcing that fluid back up into my lymph system, where my body can then eliminate it. And I know that this is how it works because my arm, since my mastectomy, I often wear a compression sleeve. I often don't because I hate them, but if it gets really bad, I put one on and that fluid gets reabsorbed back into my system. So this makes sense to me. So I'm in a girdle and I am on this medication now. I'm in the middle of my second round and I don't have that slivery feeling as I did on day 3, 2 weeks ago. It's starting a little bit today. I'm going to try to push it to day 7 this time. If I can't get there, it's okay. I'm not going to freak because I know this medication is doing something. It doesn't take cancer away. But what it does do is it halts its growth. And so I want to keep that stable reading for as long as I can. And I'd rather get mauled by a bear than what I was facing. We've made plans. And so in January, we're going to see the wolves in Park Omega again, where we rented a cabin that allow this pack of wolves in this sanctuary to just walk past your window and howl. So I'm so excited. But bigger than that, I'm leaving on the 9th to go visit my friends in Alaska through Thanksgiving, through a new Taylor Swift dance party. My friend Corey is catching her ferry back on the 10th of November, and I told that to Tim, and he arranged everything for me. It's going to take me 2 days to get there, but I will get on the same ferry as Corey, and so we'll get to ride back from Juneau that day. And then the next morning, I see my friend Anne for tea, and then she also invited me for dinner and said, "Is this too much?" And I was like, "You're the reason I'm coming back, so no." Of course not. And yeah, so this is the good news. It's a double-edged sword because last winter, Tim and I were not doing so well. The day we moved into our house, we had a plumbing issue. It was a parts failure, and our entire downstairs had to be rebuilt. And so the reason I stayed over the winter was to oversee the rebuild. And we've spent this whole past winter apart, not knowing if we'd get to the place where we could come back together. Tim, to me, was the perfect partner when I was going through chemo and radiation. He was there for every appointment. He drove me to everything. He did so knowing he was driving me to something I didn't want to do. I was beating up the walls. I wanted out of my body. The treatment was so bad. He watched me almost die 3 times. I left my body twice right in front of him. I can't imagine what it's like to be on his end. When a caretaker goes through PTSD and there's no healthy outlet for all that pent up fear and anger and rage and pushing all those feelings down for so long for the sake of your partner. We spent our anniversary while that was going on, with him on the couch and me sitting at a friend's saying he doesn't talk to me anymore. I felt like I was walking on eggshells. And I thought cancer came as close to killing my marriage as it came close to killing me. But we've been together for over 20 years, and we've always come to the other side, and we never stopped working through it. And so we found these incredible videos online, and there's so much help out there now that is free. We used it as a tool, and we would send each other videos that explained in words how we felt and the mechanisms behind it, so that we both learned what those mechanisms were. And we listened to one another and be witness to one another in ways that we had lost sight of because of cancer. And so while it's awesome that I get to go to Alaska, it's very different this time to be there without him for over a month. Even if my health is poor, I'm not going to stay here fearing the end. When I was making those plans to go to Alaska, and this was after the PET scan, before the CAT scan, okay? So we still didn't know some things. I said to Tim, what happens if I get there and things aren't as good as we think, and I expire away from you? How is that going to be for you? And he riffed on what I was saying about not wanting to make decisions based on the fear of the end. And he said, our relationship isn't defined by where things end. He's like, I could get hit by a bus outside of the house away from you tomorrow. It's going to suck no matter what. But I'm not going to keep you here in fear and say that I need you when I know what you need is there. And so my hard part is having to leave him for so long when time is still so short. But we're not looking at that shortness of time anymore. We're looking at the fullness of every day. And New York is a very hard place for me to be. Just re-entering the state and driving through the place where I grew up, and there was so much abuse and assault, and not just of me, but of other members of my family, and the memories that just lurk in the corners here everywhere I go. My mother and I have been estranged. I believe she's still drinking. It's been 20 years, I don't know. She didn't want me to marry Tim because he didn't like how I drank when I was with her. And also with a band that I traveled with for a very short stint. I could be a wild woman. But I knew it was wrong, and I knew it was the only way I could relate to her. And so I would do it with her. She lives on one side of me. My father, where I grew up, was on the other side. And no matter which way I go in this state, I feel the presence of all of that I don't feel in Haines. I feel so free in Haines, and I've met a community of people who are so alive and made me feel so alive. And they say I do that for them, and I'm so glad, but I feel like I get more out of the deal, honestly. And I need that back. And what Dr. Streisand said when she asked if maybe it was my acceptance of the way things are, and it's my discovery of a place where I feel free, then Tim's fear, it's mine too, is me being here, could be refeeding that disease. And that's a very, very scary thought, because the meds can't combat that mental and emotional shift. I need to do that, and I need to take my power back in that way. And so this is why I'm going back. And this is why I won't be with Tim, but we talked every day last winter. This time we'll be talking about things that are not so heavy. We'll be sharing fun experiences, and we're already talking about how to plan to go back in the spring for the hooligan run, to see it together. And maybe I don't get another summer, but I really, really feel like I'm going to get another spring. And so, yeah, time is still short. Time is still so very precious. And there's a lot of emotion wrapped up in this. But there's so much more joy in living in this minute. And we'll find ways around the hard parts. So that's the big announcement. I'm so grateful for every single one of you, every one of your comments, for cheerleading me on when I had told you I had good news, for being there when I had bad news, for wishing me well on the journey across the country, for sharing your stories. The story is about all of us. I think that's part of what sustained me. So thank you for lifting me up. All right, I love you. I love you so much. Thank you for everything. I'll talk to you soon.